I love doing these before and after like scenarios because, well, it's hilarious. Hey rockers, I'm Veer Von Wright, and this is Grafikmetal, where rock is celebrated with design in mind. This is episode 6.1 in our ongoing series we call Ghostoria, which is us covering the history, design, stories from the lore of the band Ghost. Housekeeping reminder, we did find the Ministry of Ghost last year. You can see our arrival, which was documented in our episode, We Found the Ministry of Ghost, here. This episode of Grafikmetal is sponsored by TSOHG, the Sentient Officers Holding Ghost, the Organization of Open-Mindedness, NTBTSP, Not to be Taken Seriously or Personal, and Green Snoopy, cause why not? Life is meant for fun. Speaking of arrivals, Album 6 announced the arrival of Papa 5 Perpetual, which is the 5th version continuous for the Ministry of Ghost. We will unpack Papa 5 on episode 6.1 soon, along with more in-depth ideas and analysis of the songs and themes as we get closer to the release on episode 6.2 and so forth. But today, I want to focus on the album name and the front art cover, which was unveiled yesterday. The title of the 6th studio album by Ghost, aka Sacred Palms 6, is called Skeleta, which is plural in Latin for skeletons, and it most likely has dual meanings. It means our past, memories, death, and the skeletons of our past, but also of life. The positivity and beauty of both being able to reflect on our path and the knowing that everything will be okay. The flow of time and life will continue, so to speak. Or will it? A cliffhanger, which I'll get to later on. This duality message is intentionally vague and open to be interpreted in multiple of ways. At first thought, I can think of at least 3 distinct different ways. The most obvious being the one just mentioned of death to life and the never-ending flow of time. The second and most direct to the band's lore being that Ghost, its ministry and mission, marches on. Even as the old regime and the clergy of Papa Nil and Sister Imperator retire and new Father Imperator taking over in former Papa Emeritus 4, aka Cardinal Copia, who led the band during the last 2 Sacred Palms during Cycle 4, and the new Papa, Papa 5 Perpetual, who will lead the band Ghost now moving forward in Cycle 5. And the last reason is the most hidden, but personal to Tobias himself, the man, which is him reflecting on his feeling of the world today and the political power dictators controlling a dark narrative these days. He wants us to know that yes, it's dark times for sure, but it soon will come to pass. They soon will just be more of our skeletons, so don't fret. Everything is just as it always has been, and we should focus on the present time, present now, and enjoy the time we do have. This duality of nature is etched firmly visually on its art cover too. You have the initial reaction at a quick glance in it feeling familiar, as it should. It once again on a high level depicts the ministry's reign via its Papa leader, supreme ruler, but this time around, instead of it being over the church, group, or city like the previous poems, it now depicts supreme rule over its tribe throughout all of time. It hints at a sense of reflection both internally with the use of all the mirrors, especially the ones in the middle that cascade from one another like a loop, or the digging of going deeper and deeper and deeper. Plus, externally, as we view the current ruler hovering over the city from behind, which yes, can be seen as Papa 5, but because it's from behind and abstract, it more likely means any and all Papas, past, present, and future. The city is divided up into 4 sections, which I believe represents each of the previous 4 cycles, and thus that notion of time, and that we currently now are in cycle 5. If you look closely at the city, the large oval center of the town seems to represent Infestinium, and you can clearly see references to the church-like buildings of all the albums up to this point. But because they all essentially have those churches, right, it feels more like the whole thing depicts each cycle rather than individual sections. You also have 2 sand hourglasses connecting the city and the main large mirror in the center, again to reinforce the symbolism of time. Naturally, there are a ton of literal skeletons, right? Which I wouldn't be surprised if each one represents a specific character in the lore. Possibly down the road we'll understand that better. But it is a fun trivia question for now, which is, how many skeletons do you believe are depicted on the front cover of the Skeleta album? Another fun tidbit is that the ghost logo shows up 3 times, which I am very confident acts as the Holy Trinity and sign of the cross. I mean, it's ghost, it makes sense. Why else would there be exactly 3 of them? 1 very hidden, might I add. But look at where they are placed. They are placed exactly in locations that mark the 3 iconic positions when performing the Holy Trinity sign of the cross hand gesture ritual in front of a mirror. I say in front of the mirror because it's reversed, right? And since it's reversed, it's Tobias secretly asking you to stand in front of the mirror yourself and for you to do it, which takes the reflection theme to another dimension on a personal level, right? And Tobias wanting us all to take the time to reflect on ourselves. That and pushing out the subliminal agenda in trying to hypnotize us all in becoming followers of the Ministry of Ghost. One nitpick, before we get back to more of the theology, unless it gets updated from now till release, I think it was a mistake not having more of the color purple within the art. More specifically, the simple fix would have been to have the ghost logo with a little bit more blue pigmentation to make it appear more purple. As a designer, I know how hard it is to pull off a large-scale, ever-evolving thematic color scheme system like he has been trying to do with Ghosts and the Cycles. The color scheme here will make it so that he's going to lose 3 opportunities down the road. Purple, obviously, dark blue, which is the Pantone color he is currently using for this cycle, at least according to the art cover, and black because to the human eye it comes off as black. I know it's a nitpick, but just saying. At minimum, I was surprised, and it feels like a miscue or a missed opportunity. Traditionally, the color represents thematically the cycle at hand and is paid off in the fashion, set design, lighting, and marketing during that cycle. And we now have started to see it come to action in the marketing that we've seen up to this point. And I like to call it the Black Sabbath Masters of a Reality color palette, with the use of black, gray, and an accent color of purple, which easily could be a nod to Black Sabbath themselves, given Tobias, as Papa 5 will be performing at that Back to the Beginning last concert of theirs. But I think it was actually just a coincidence. The color scheme for Cycle 5 just makes a ton of sense, not only because of this hypothetical theory of its meaning, but also because it's a color scheme he has yet to use, and I have long believed that black with gray and the accent color purple is the strongest color scheme for heavy music. Thus have been waiting for him to finally use it. Maybe he was waiting for this moment to go all out, as marketing-wise he's been pushing and identifying this new tour as being the largest scale performance he's ever attempted. Again, we will go into more detail on that, Papa 5, fashion, set design, and marketing, so forth on the next episode. Back to the art cover. The fact that the dominant figure in the art, or current leader, Papa, is forming and coming to be through the very graves of the city itself, I believe is Tobias saying that we are all one. We all are a part of each other. We are all an embodiment of our past, present, and future. Just as Papa 5 is the creation from everything that has come before, or the prophecy that was told in the past, which we will get to in the next episode. The background is not just a blank color of, say, black, but it has white specks throughout, and thus clearly is depicting space. And thus, the fact that all the pieces feel like they are separated out from one another represents the feeling like everything is falling apart and may lead to the destruction of everything, life itself. Throw in the gray engraving drawing style technique, which I believe continues this duality, representing both the past ruins of the city or society, but also our current path to becoming more machine-like, which means you know where I'm going with this. It is a social commentary, so to speak, that if we are not careful, the path we are on is not just destruction of today or our past, but could result to the void of everything, the very fabric of life itself, or at least from living and breathing warm, spiritual, unpredictable, messy, but beautiful organisms of plants, animals, and humans, as depicted in the oil painting on the left side, aka sunrise, aka life. 2. Juxtaposition the cold, calculated, sentient machines on the right side, aka sunset, aka death. Sure, it could be a stretch, but if you look closely at the paintings, it sure adds up. The left side has an abundance of only natural, organic things that feels prosperous and full of life. It even has an abstract shape of what appears to be a human-like figure, which could depict both, God, and thus the moment of creation itself, or simply human, and thus to drive home that organic nature, compared to the right side, which not only feels cold and desolate, it is void of any human-like figures or animals or plants. The only nature it has is a mountain, and possibly the ocean, which is either washing away the city or disappearing into the space. But what's more peculiar is that on this side, the right side, there appears to be buildings, and not just buildings, but advanced structures, sort of like how we always depict, in sci-fi novels, which could just mean the present time, or it could also depict the rise and overthrow of our land and life by machines. I mean, after all, Tobias has decided to ban all smart devices at all Ghost shows moving forward, a move I predicted he would make in our episode Ghostoria, How Ghosts Changed Entertainment Forever. After being there at the shows at the Forum in LA that were used to film the Right Here, Right Now Ghost movie, and after watching the film, I believe this is what Tobias was trying to message out. We need to put away our devices and be more present in life. Our land is beautiful. We are beautiful. But our land and ourselves are only good if we treat each other and our lands as such. If we become more fully engaged and present with one another and our experiences, we're better off. Like a concert. Even in the early interviews he now has started to do this week, it seems like that's kind of a big part of his message. He wants to talk about how much more he felt alive during those two shows in LA with filming for the movie. And he wants to take that one small step in gifting people that ability to go back in time and experience the way concerts once used to be without our devices. So check out our episode on that from last year, and yeah, I believe he's making the right call, and I believe that it'll be a ripple effect. Like I mentioned, I think this is going to be a game changer. I think more people are going to follow suit. I believe it should happen, and it's the right thing to do. That was the episode. Let us know what you thought, anything that you would like to share, of your theories and ideas about the album art cover. Again, just the album art cover, because we'll do other episodes upcoming for Papa 5 and other things. So until then, I'm Veer Von Wright, and you've been watching Grafikmetal. Cheers and keep on riding.